Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Cold Hard Truth NFL podcast. I'm your host, Anish Gupta.
And I'm your host, Shrikar Gendran.
Sorry we took around a 2 week hiatus. Just a bunch of different things going on. Shriek, how was your, last two football weekends? And I know you're a little bit excited about this upcoming one, so
Oh,
take it
definitely.
away.
Yeah, so we didn't put out an episode for you guys last week. I was on vacation. And at the time of this recording, I pretty much just got back from the airport. So a little bit tired, but the show must go on. The last two football weekends were good. Nothing much to say if you're a Niner fan. It's just the wins keep rolling. And I'm excited for Saturday. We'll get into it in a little bit.
Yeah, I think you guys ended on what, a 10-game winning streak?
Yep.
I don't, a little bit, I don't know. I mean, there were no lows, so, you don't want to have your lows in Jan. So, I think the Niners are doing good, though.
Mhm.
Obviously, the Browns had a pretty bad loss to the Steelers. I mean, if you guys watched it, the announcers were just absolutely like so biased. I mean, I literally didn't see them get excited about anything we did. So that was fun, I guess. And like Shrikar, I'm also tired. Just came back from a really long workout. And the thing is, after you work out, you want to shower, maybe trim some things. And one thing that you could really use with your trimmer is our sponsor for today's video, Manscaped. Um, the Lawnmower 4.0 is a really good trimmer to use. It's got a cutting edge ceramic blade, wireless charging, and it never gives you cuts or nicks. So it's a really good thing to use, really great product. They've got advanced skin safe technology. Again, you don't really have to worry about, getting any type of bruises. Manscaped's got other amazing products. They've got some t-shirts, boxers, ball deodorant if you really want it. It's the proud partner of the San Francisco 49ers and as well as us. Use code CHD20 for 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com. Join over 2 million men worldwide using this product. And go grab yourself that Lawnmower 4.0. Always use the right tools for the job with Manscaped. All right, let's kind of get into it. We're kind of just gonna recap the last like week of the season. I mean, the second to last week didn't really have much, but before that, we'll probably touch on. I think we'll probably do this one first. We didn't really get a chance to talk about Damar Hamlin's injury. That happened on Monday, Jan 2nd, I believe. That was the day it happened. Just a quick thing on it. I'll start off. Or actually, no. Why don't you start? I've been talking a lot. Why don't you go for it?
Yeah. Obviously, a lot to say about this topic. I'll try and keep it as concise as I can, but it's a podcast for a reason. We're gonna ramble. But anyways, Damar Hamlin, second year safety for the Bills. He was knocked pretty much lifeless on what seemed to be a routine tackle of T. Higgins. Hamlin stood up, just went limp, and then he crashed to the turf. And in the hours that followed, I mean, many people feared the worst. The game was correctly postponed and later canceled. Millions of people around the country were just on their phone, on Twitter, just looking for updates, just like me. And thankfully, the updates which eventually came were incredible. Slowly regaining consciousness, showing full neurological activity. He eventually began speaking. And I think my biggest takeaway from this was what happened between the from the moment on the field to him speaking was that's a story right there. And obviously, if you guys have been keeping up with this on GoFundMe, Hamlin had a toy drive back in 2020 for his Chasing M's Foundation. The goal was 2,500, I believe, and it well past it. It was at like 8.5 million last time I checked. So opposing teams and owners donated. All the fan bases gave money, left notes, a lot of gifts, and a lot of support. Right, this was a man that was fighting for his life at 24 years old. So I think a big takeaway for me was it's one of those things where you kind of have faith in humanity. It was one of those moments where you kind of see the human spirit and how good people can be, because it's really bigger than football, and it can't be overstated. So Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing that I can speak on right now with Damar Hamlin. And obviously, I keep praying for him to make a recovery here.
All right, so I'm gonna try and keep it short. We've kind of come full circle now. He's back at home, discharged from the hospital, so obviously great news. Um, I remember when I watched it, I kind of watched some medical analyses on it, and I think what it came down to was T hit him in a really specific spot that stopped the block or that caused the blockage in blood flow. And scientifically speaking, if blood doesn't go to the brain, or sorry, oxygen doesn't hit the brain, that's the problem. That's the problem. And I think that was what people were most afraid of when Damar went down. So the fact that the first responders were able to give him oxygen during that time is remarkable, considering that if he did not get it, despite being a well-conditioned athlete, it wouldn't have looked good. I think this also just goes to show that when you're young, like the body can take a lot. When he first went down, obviously a lot of big concerns kind of raised everyone's suspicions, but over time, you kind of realized he was making a better recovery, and obviously through everyone's prayers, I think they were all kind of answered. Um, Another thing too, just wanted to shout out Peyton Hillis, who was suffering a similar thing, for saving his children from drowning. So just wanted to shout that out. And I think these two football players, Damar especially, with it being on a Monday Night Football stage, just for everybody to see, uh, I think it shows the mortality of the sport that we really love, and I get to talk to a lot of the guys on Cal football, especially my brother who's playing football right now. Like this is a sport that they really put more than just their psyche and that winning mentality on the line. It's their, I mean, we saw it. It could have been their lives, right? So it's a dangerous sport, and we kind of got to see how people rally together and why football is more than just a game. It's kind of a community. You see different players talking about it and kind of rallying together. Just makes football really cool. And yeah, I think he's been discharged. I don't know the whole his from a football perspective what he's going to do and what's his timeline. Probably long shot, but obviously we would love to see him back on the field. I think Buffalo's going to be really motivated behind this, which obviously they were. In terms of like the football implications, they're obviously, yes. Bengals fans should be upset with what went down. Honestly, Bills fans should also be upset with what went down, considering that they probably would have had the one seed for sure if they had beaten Cincinnati. But obviously, we can say that now. But I think during the 10 days that he was in the hospital, this really shouldn't have been the topic of discussion, which I'm glad it wasn't. But yeah, just to recap, just a really good story about how he's kind of recovered. And I really hope we don't see anything like this, because this was always something I wondered. I'm sure you have too, right? Like, what if there was a hit so devious, so devastating that, he just did not get up? And I guess, we saw an answer. And I think this is good because now football personnel will be more prepared for a thing like this.
Well, actually, it's interesting because I did look it up. Like, did a player ever actually, die in the field? And it's happened before. But it's just like it's a once in a lifetime sort of thing. Like,
Right.
it is so rare. And I think what really, necessarily kind of gave it away for me was normally when you see a situation like that, you expect to see the thumbs up. You expect to see the players just, on a knee, just praying. But the Bills players were sobbing. Like, that was something that was like, this is something's different. Like, something's wrong. So yeah, it's just something that is so unprecedented in the NFL. And I think, yeah, we just got to hope that something like this never happens again. And it really shouldn't.
Yeah. Again, I think this is just something that now first responders and the NFL training personnel are just going to be at least prepared for. I think that's one thing. But honestly, for something that really needed to be executed right in a critical time, it was really well done. Again, kudos to Damar Hamlin, praying for the for his recovery for long term. Really hope he makes the football field again. And just a tremendous story for an NFL league that I guess could use it.
Mhm.
All right, moving on. Let's talk about some head coaches. We always do it. I believe it's called Black Monday
Yeah.
around the NFL. So let's talk about what is your best head coaching vacancy. Let's go with that one first. Let's go positive.
I gotta go with the Panthers. I'll talk about it a little bit. The Panthers are owned by David Tepper. He desperately wants to get his second head coaching hire right after whiffing on Matt Rule. Jim Harbaugh has already been linked as a person of interest here, and it makes sense. Obviously, been keeping up with Michigan. They could be facing sanctions. And I just think it's the best situation available. The Panthers have a top 10 pick along with SF's second, third, and fourth round picks. Carolina can move up if they want and get a top quarterback and, pair him with a roster that has a lot of young talent. And another guy that should get strong consideration, obviously, Steve Wilkes. The Panthers were a mess under Rule, like a complete disaster. And they really rallied around Wilkes. They played inspired football, even after dealing away Christian McCaffrey. They were very motivated, obviously in the playoff hunt until the final week of the season. So I think the Panthers are a great spot. And also Ben Johnson, Lions OC, has been linked there, and that would be a fantastic hire as well. So options galore for Carolina. I think it's a great spot to be in.
Yeah, contrary to popular belief, I don't know why this has been thrown out there. I think this is one of the best head coaching, what do you call it, like options or head coaching pools that there's been in a while. Like I think there's a lot of good people out there that can be used for different teams. As far as the best head coaching vacancy goes, I'm kind of torn with Carolina and Arizona, and I think the one thing that's going to make me agree with you is that Arizona, with the whole Kyler Murray thing, like I just don't know. I like too much noise, right? Like, can you contain that? That's kind of my question. I like Carolina a lot. I'm with you. I think we're gonna see a little bit more of the vacancies open up. Houston is also interesting to me.
Yeah.
I'll throw that in as a wild card because you're gonna have cap space. You're gonna get rid of a lot of the guys that are old veterans. You've got a young team. I think they're a shoe-in for Bryce Young. So if it does end up happening like that, I think John Mechie is also a big X factor. Obviously, hope he fully recovers from leukemia, but they've said he's made some really good strides. So there's a lot to like in Houston as well. But Arizona also from a personnel standpoint, I think they've got some of the best players out there, even without D-Hop.
I actually disagree with Arizona. I don't think their situation is good at all. The roster is not good. The quarterback needed a homework clause in his mega extension, and that quarterback is recovering from a torn ACL, which probably keeps him sidelined into next year. And now it's kind of like it's a rebuild and it's a retool because Murray is signed for at least 2 more years. So you have to try to win now. It's very shaky, but I do agree with you on Houston. I think it's a good spot.
I don't think Arizona's win now. So a lot of their guys are, or at least a lot of their core guys are decently young and under contract. I think for Arizona, here's what you need. You need to maximize your offensive skill positions. And I think that's why I think Sean Payton would be a good hire long term. The question is, would he take it? I don't know. But I think they would be the best fit. I think I'm thinking about it in that perspective. I think if I'm a head coach in general, overall, yeah, probably wouldn't want to go there because I think Arizona needs an experienced guy who knows what he's doing. But from that perspective, I do think Arizona has probably the best roster available out of the teams because Carolina. Ugh. Actually, okay, I'll probably go Carolina because of I think they have better young talent, also with the capital. But yeah, I've got Carolina 1. I think Arizona and Houston are tied for 2. You could put Houston above. We'll see some more open, I think.
Yeah, with Houston, I don't know if you mentioned this, but Texas is an income tax-free state, so it's not a bad perk when you're talking about millions of dollars, right, on the job. But I think the only downside with Houston
is. Who do you think they go with? Who do you think goes where? Oh, Denver's also one. We didn't even talk about Denver, but Denver's in. I don't know.
I was gonna say Denver for the worst coaching vacancy. A little spoiler there, but in terms of who goes to where, right now I think the Texans would go for a guy like D'Amico Ryans. Obviously ties with Houston already, being a former player there. But It's a little bit early to kind of predict all this, but I'll say Ryans to Houston. Arizona. I kind of want to say Peyton, but Peyton's just so up in the air because what happens if the Cowboys lose on Sunday or Monday?
Yeah, so see, this is why I think this is
It's
also a really
way too early.
weird topic, a weird topic because we're gonna get more vacancies in my opinion.
No, we will. Yeah.
So I think this is where we like maybe take a pause. But I don't know if I necessarily agree that Denver's the worst. Like I think it just comes down to how they use Russell Wilson. Like because you just need him to be like to execute outside the pocket. You just need to have him find confidence in moving outside like he once did.
Well,
I mean, if you like I've been watching a lot of early Russell Wilson tape lately. Oh my god, like please for younger viewers out there, like seriously, watch 2012 to 2013, like his first 2 years in the league. I mean, it's some of the most magical stuff I've ever seen. And it just progressively less and less he became less confident in his legs. And I think obviously, yeah, he's going to be 34, but if you can just execute, there's so many plays, there's so many personnel packages out there. I've read them, I've studied them, so I know that you can use your quarterback outside. It's not that hard. If you use him in that way, I think you can get the best out of Denver.
while you said that, I was kind of thinking of head coaching candidates for Denver, and I know people want to see Sean Payton in Denver, but I think I put this in the chat. It just seems like a weird fit because obviously New Orleans will want at least a first round pick for Payton in a trade. The Broncos, they have the pick after trading Chubb to the Dolphins, but I think George Payton really needs the pick to improve the personnel. But obviously, new owners. Ron Walton, he has billions, and he might look to make a splash hire with his first opportunity, and Peyton would definitely qualify for that. But it would also be ridiculously expensive in both money,
Yeah,
like financially, and draft capital. But if Peyton isn't the final choice, and he very well may not be, I'm actually going to say Dan Quinn. He did well in Denver's process last year, and I think he is the front runner as it stands for me for the Denver job.
I think George Patton Payton, however you say it, is on 100% on the hot seat because keep in mind, ownership was not there when they made the two moves of Russ
Right.
and Hackett.
Mm-hmm.
So, and they've got money to spend, so and they can whiff on these type of things. Uh, I also don't know. I'll say one thing about Arizona. I think I'm regretting putting it up there, especially because I forgot Steve Keim said I'm not going to be
Stepping
here.
down, yeah.
So that's also a little bit concerned. Yeah, so I'm a little bit concerned about that. Moving on, let's do a quick recap on JJ Watt, who decided to retire. And I've always said this. I was very reluctant to give praise to Aaron Donald because of a guy like JJ Watt. When I watched JJ Watt, uh, and especially growing up, he always jumped out of my screen. Like I knew where he was at all times. And when I was a kid, I'm not watching the defensive and offensive line like nowadays. Like I wasn't doing that. Like I'm sure most kids aren't. Like who's looking down in the trenches to see big boys just rumble and stumble. But this dude was always doing something, and what like lined up anywhere on the field. And again, only player in NFL history to have two 20 sack seasons. And keep in mind, one of them was when he was a D tackle. Like this guy was a generational player. Injuries obviously derailed it. His final season was 11 and a half sacks. Like, I mean, this guy, first ballot, class act, Walter Payton Man of the Year. He basically had everything except obviously a championship. And I don't know if you know this, Shrikar. You probably do remember this. In 2020, when they lost, I think they were like 4-11. He goes on a press conference and just rails his team. Like he was like, we
I
need to
remember that.
step up, right? Like people are paying us to do this. This is a job. I mean, this was a really good leader, and I think he's probably. I'm including Aaron Donald in this. I think he's probably one of the two best defensive players I've ever seen play. So sucks. It really sucks to see him retire so early. But he had some dietary stuff. A little bit. He put a little bit on too much in his early years, and you could see that wear him down. But incredible guy, an incredible career.
Yeah, Watt is 33 years old. After 12 years on the gridiron, he's done. His career began as a 2011 first-round pick with the Texans and ended low-key on a 4-13 Cardinals team. But he had a good year. Like, he never obviously the gripe is he never reached the Super Bowl. He never even reached a conference title game. But I don't think anybody would argue about J.J. Watt's career being anything other than one of the best we've ever seen. Especially if you, like me and Anish, like we grew up watching this guy. So he walks away in a year with 12 and a half sacks, 6 seasons with double digits. All told, Watt notched 112 and a half sacks, was named to 5 Pro Bowls, 5-time first-team All-Pro, 3 Defensive Player of the Year awards. He was on the 2010s Hall of Fame All-Decade team. As you mentioned, Walter Payton Man of the Year, 2017. I mean, this guy is going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. He is one of the best defensive ends to ever live. Just insane numbers. And his career obviously never had any controversy. It was rather the opposite. He was most definitely a role model and example. So, it's kind of like we usually see players retire after they, become significant contributors. But Watt, he kind of like left us wanting more. Like he could have kept going, which is, it's amazing. But a legendary career. So happy retirement to JJ Watt, and it's gonna suck not seeing him in the league anymore, huh?
Yeah, I think with JJ too, it's just like, I mean, he's got a younger brother who's killing it right now too, right? Like TJ was doing his thing. I can't like I still think or okay, the conversation used to be is JJ Watt not only the best defensive player, but is he the best player in the league? There was a
Yeah.
lot of conversations Donald had the same thing. There was a guy who did it before. I mean, I can only name you like maybe 5 defensive players who have ever had that conversation where, okay, he's not just the best defensive player. Is he the best player in the league, right? The guys that come to mind are Lawrence Taylor, Deion Sanders, Reggie White, right? And I mean, JJ and Aaron Donald. I mean, I think that's a pretty solid list for your top 5 all time. Like this dude is really up there. Especially that 3-4 year run he had where he had the 3 depoys. I mean, that's crazy, right? Like 3 and 4 years is absurd. I believe he had 2012, 2014, and 15.
Yeah.
So yeah, congrats on an incredible career. If he ever sees this, I still remember he had that touchdown on the fade route against the Browns. That was not fun. But yeah, hell of a career, man. All right. Let's do it, man. The NFL postseason is here. I literally cannot believe we're already at this stage. I'm still going to be repping my team, even though we're not in it. Shriekar's team is. So it's a continued streak every single year. And I'm including Jim Mickey because he will always be a part of this. Only one of our teams has made the playoffs each year. So Shrikar got it back to back. I'm really hoping the Browns take it in 23. But let's start with the previews. I know you've got the order, but I know which game is up first, and it's yours. Seattle Seahawks versus the San Francisco 49ers, the 7 seed versus the 2 seed. Obviously, the Seahawks got a little bit of help from a team up in Detroit. Shriek, why don't you start us off? Give us, what are you most looking forward to? Or, obviously as a Niner fan, what are you most scared of? Where do you see this game going?
So I will actually be at this game on Saturday. It's going to be a downpour, unfortunately. That's kind of what my only concern is. It's the rain. But history says it's more likely than not that a team who has swept a divisional series wins the third leg. Although some would argue in recent years it's quite the opposite. But the Niners are looking to uphold that standard by handling the Seahawks this weekend. In both of our previous matchups, the Niners have hammered Seattle. This defense is punishing, right? Only 3 combined points from the Seahawks offense in non-garbage time. So they can do work, right? And in those games, Seattle also has a -4 turnover ratio. So for the Hawks to pull off an upset, it's a very, very big uphill battle. You got to win the turnover battle for one, and You have to find a way to win in the red zone against better talent on both sides of the ball. It's just tough chore, man, tough chore. But I don't think this one is too hard to break down, and I think you can already tell where I'm leaning with this.
All right, I'm gonna throw this at you. First of all, whoever's not in the Bay Area or in California for that matter, it has been raining really hard for the last like 2 weeks, maybe even three, and I believe it's over 1 trillion gallons of water. So we've had Shrikar escaped it, but yeah, I've been dealing with it. It's been bad, fellas. Like my hoop literally fell down.
Oh wait, I
Um,
didn't escape. A tree literally fell like
yeah,
right by
no,
our driveway. It's crazy,
this is absurd, man.
wild.
So it's gonna be that type of weather for this game. I think that helps Seattle a little bit more, just because I think they are a team that can run the ball when push comes to shove with Kenneth Walker. I'm not saying the Niners can't. I'm just saying Seattle, at least offensively, are better running the football than they are passing. And okay, I know people are gonna disagree with that. Uh, Look, I think Gino's had an unbelievable year, but he has had some really bad down moments. And let's keep it a buck. They did not play well against LA. They did not. That was not winning
Hmm.
that was not winning football. You've got to be way better than that if you want even a shot to win this game. And I'm just concerned because they didn't look good on either side of the ball. I mean, defense played well in overtime because Quandre Diggs made one of the craziest plays I've ever seen on a post route. Like to get under that. I know Baker underthrew it a little bit, but still, I mean, that was just really incredible. They're a team that knows the Niners well, but the Niners have kind of owned them last couple years, which is weird to say.
Hmm.
Uh, Shriek, what like this is like this is a really bad matchup for Seattle and a
Yeah, it
really good
is.
like this is a really good matchup for SF. I don't know what else to say. Like this is just yeah, I think this is great for if you're an SF fan, Brandon Ayuk, because I've been a little bit critical. I know a lot of Niner fans were really high on him, and I'm a big Debo guy, so I was a little bit critical. But I think he's had one of the biggest improvements out of any receiver these past couple years, especially in terms of route running. I think he's looked really good. And I don't know if I'm gonna give him that wide receiver one title. I don't think that was my biggest knock on him. I still don't know if I would, but he is developing into a really good player. So I will say that. And this is going to be the CMAC show on Sunday, or sorry, Saturday.
Mhm.
That's Shriek. Do you think Brock Purdy will be asked to do anything? Like when's the game? Like let's say they win this game, right? Like when are we going to see the ball in Brock Purdy's hands? Because we really haven't.
I think Kyle will be confident enough to put the ball in Brock Purdy's. He has in the regular season. Playoffs are
When
always a
I
different
not
story.
really.
In
I
the
don't
Raiders
think
game,
so. I mean,
in the
I guess
Raiders
the
game, he did.
Raiders game, but
Raiders game, he
I
did.
guess I think a
Bucks game,
lot
he
of it
was in
was
command. I mean, he was in command. Like it's not like I'd
no, no,
even
no.
say
But
more in command than Jimmy because he wasn't hiding behind the run game. Like that's even Jimmy wasn't. But I think it is a little tough because he's a rookie. But I think Brock has shown me enough to the point where I think Shanahan does trust him a little bit more than a guy like Jimmy and a guy like Trey. But obviously, in this game, I think the writing's on the wall that it's going to be the run game all day. Purdy won't be asked to do much. But look, I just it's tough to say in the biggest moments, playoff moments, what he's going to do because we just haven't seen it from him yet. Like we haven't seen him actually. Well, he did lead a game-winning drive technically against the Raiders, but like it's the Raiders. So I think in an actual playoff atmosphere, things are a little different. But in terms of this game, I don't think Purdy's going to be asked to do much.
I think he's going to be pretty comfortable in terms of a playoff atmosphere. Like this is just going to be another home game. I I just yeah, like they don't really they haven't really set plays for him. A lot of it has just been open seam routes to George Kittle. Like it's not I can't give him the Raiders game as like a big moment in his career. He's been good. Like this is what I'm saying about Brock. He's just so poised. Like I haven't really seen anything that I can fault him for, but I also can't really see anything that I can like overly praise him for. And I think that's what, my not really a concern is, it's just a fact that I'm just stating. Uh Last time the Niners played in some rain was or some big rain was Chicago.
That was
And
hail.
yeah, it was a lot. It was a lot. I don't know how bad it's gonna be, but it's gonna be pretty bad. So if it's eerily similar to that, one thing that's really good about the Niners team is that they've developed, right? Like this is not the same Niners team that you're seeing in Week 1. At least I don't hope it comes back to that. But yeah, one thing's for sure. This is probably the worst matchup of this, maybe Buffalo, Miami, but we'll say
Actually, it
that.
is Buffalo, Miami.
But yeah, probably them. But I guess in the NFC, this is probably the worst.
Hey,
All right, you want to move on to the next one?
yeah, and just real quick, because it's probably the last time I'm going to talk about the Seahawks, but Seattle's been a great story. Geno Smith definitely deserves that Pro Bowl, but yeah, I'm sorry, the Niners are on an entirely different level. It's just a very tough spot for the Seahawks, but I'll give them their flowers. They outperformed expectations. Getting here was a big deal, so yeah, good job.
If SF loses, I'm going to clip this and I'm going to make sure it is on every platform that we have. All right,
Sure.
moving on. What's the next game we got on the Saturday slate?
Um, Probably one of the best games. Definitely one I'm looking forward to. It's the Chargers and the Jags. Two young quarterbacks looking to announce their arrival on the scene for Trevor Lawrence and Justin Herbert. This marks the first playoff appearance for both of them. This is the biggest showcase for the both of them on a national stage. This is unlike anything we've seen from either since college. For the Jaguars, obviously it's been a dream finish to the season, 5-game winning streak. The Chargers were about to be the healthiest they've been since I want to say like week 3, but then Joey Bosa and Mike Williams were injured in a meaningless loss to the Broncos on Sunday, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. But as for Jacksonville, I think the pivotal question here, can you get pressure on Herbert? The Jaguars only have 35 sacks this year, so that's bottom third of the league. So if Herbert has time, Jacksonville's secondary will be under a lot of pressure. And now let me talk about Brandon Staley. There is no excuse for his decision to play starters all afternoon when you're already locked into the 5 seed. And now you could be down multiple stars. And also, even when they did play, they gave up 471 yards on 7.5 yards per play to a horrible Denver offense. It's just, oh my God, it's just a complete disaster and something that was really avoidable. But yeah, it's so is Brandon Staley, so is a Chargers moment. But yeah, I think the big question is, can the Jags get pressure on Herbert for this game?
All right, let's throw in some scouting tips. For the Chargers, can you stop the Jags' hard play action? That's what it comes down to. There's going to be the Jags know how to beat zone coverage. Trevor Lawrence is finally learning how to beat disguise zone coverages, get in the hot zones. That is a big, big deal. And I think that is something that they just need to worry about in the defensive game plan. All right, another thing I wanted to bring up about this game is like one team's on a really big high in the Jacksonville Jaguars. I mean, they were low key going to lose that game had it not been for that turnover. I think that was a huge swing, right? I think it was around
Yeah,
like 4 minutes left in the game, or no, sorry, yeah, like three actually. It
three
might have been three.
minutes. Mm-hmm.
Huge swing, right? They again similar to Seattle, they were not playing winning football. On defense, like on offense, they were playing good. On defense, they were letting them control the clock. So both defenses have been pretty bad last couple weeks. I mean, I know Jacksonville gave up 34 to Dallas, but then since then they gave up 3 to Houston. So a little bit inconsistent from both teams. So it comes down to what are we going to get? Now, obviously, a lot of people have Justin Herbert, as like the fourth or third best quarterback in football. Uh, I think Trevor Lawrence is not that far behind. um, it's just really funny to me, right? Like when Trevor Lawrence has, a coach who's stable, an organization that believes in him, some decent personnel across the board. He goes 9-8 and has a really solid campaign, a 4,029 touchdown season. So uh, I think he's a star in the making. You guys know how high I am on him. Um, this is going to come down to which defense steps up, because I think both quarterbacks are going to do what they have been hyped up to do in this postseason. I think it just comes down to which defense steps up. And for the Jags, obviously they rely a little bit more on their pass rush, and then for the Chargers, it's just more kind of making plays from their playmakers. So again, which defense steps up? I think that's what it comes down to.
All right, so let's get into the pick here. I'm going to go with Jacksonville for a few reasons here. First off, obviously Jacksonville isn't as talented as LA, but I think the Jaguars match up well. They like to have T-Law throw quickly. Travis Etienne can run the rock. Obviously, run defense has always been, kind of a Chargers burden here. And that's obviously going to hurt the combination of Bosa and Mack. Another thing is the travel. This is being played on a Saturday. The Jaguars have 1 day of extra rest. While it might seem like that doesn't matter too much, the Chargers have to travel cross country. So it does kind of matter in that sense. That's two. And I think the coaching matchup favors Peterson in a landslide. I trust Doug Peterson way more than Brandon Staley in this spot. So give me the Jaguars in this game. I don't see the Cinderella run happening for the Chargers.
Yeah, so preseason Chargers were my like wild card Super Bowl pick. I came up with a random one. I kind of always do each year. Uh, I am going to also pick the Jags. I just want to clarify too. We picked SF in the earlier games.
Yeah.
So both of us are going SF. I'm picking Jacksonville as well. One thing about the Chargers is like losing to Denver the way that they did, I think is a really big morale hurt, or how do I say this? Like morale low. I don't know how else to describe it. Like it's a hurt on their morale. And Jacksonville, they believe that they can beat anybody. They've got some, just straight dogs on their team. And you're right, Peterson. It's funny because Peterson was actually like the fourth down guru before Staley. He used to make all these really crazy decisions on fourth down that people used to question. He used to go for it a lot go for two a lot. So, it's just funny that they're matching up to me. Again, for all our younger viewers out there, this is going to be a fun one. I'm taking Jacksonville, and Trevor Lawrence, first playoff game, gets his playoff win. Makes me happy because he's the only thing that's going right for me right now. So, T-Law, do me right, win this one, and going Jacksonville.
There you go. All right, Sunday slate has 3 games. We're gonna kick off with possibly the worst matchup of the weekend, but a high stakes rubber match for 2 AFC East rivals, the Dolphins and Bills. Both these teams are coming into this matchup on very different paths. In one corner, the Dolphins are starting Skylar Thompson. In the other, the Bills have Josh Allen. He looked like an MVP at times this season. He's going to be surrounded by an elite attack, one which has torched Miami in the 2 previous games they played. If Miami's going to pull this upset, I mean, you got to come up with a different defensive game plan and one that's far more effective, because this Bills offense is just going to shred the Dolphins D. Like, I'll just say it right now. But yeah, I don't see many paths for the Dolphins to win this game. I'm sorry.
It's funny. So Miami has made the playoffs twice in the last 12 years, and both times it was backup quarterback
Matt Moore.
doing it. I feel so bad. Yeah, like Tannehill tore the ACL partially, and then now we're seeing Tua with the whole concussion thing. I feel for them. I mean, like both times, really sucks. Yeah, there's not much to really root for here if you're a Miami fan in terms of, like what are you gonna bank on, right? I mean, you scored 9 points with Skylar Thompson, and he was a preseason favorite for a lot of people. Just hasn't really executed it in the weeks that he has been able to showcase anything. Uh, I don't really know what else to say. Miami looked pretty impressive when they went to Buffalo last time, but again, that was with Tua. And it was a 29-32 shootout where Tyreek Hill got called or didn't get called for a PI on Tyreek Hill didn't get called, which I thought was bogus. Rewatching the game, I don't even know if you're gonna get to that point. Buffalo is just playing. I wouldn't even say they actually played impressive versus New England because, to be honest, they were trailing the game despite having a kick return touchdown. It took two kick return touchdowns to kind of pull away from them. So they didn't really look good in their first game back without Damar Hamlin, and which we all thought was going to be a calling card in terms of motivation. But I think this is where you get right? There's no way I'll start off with the pick. I'm going to go with Buffalo. And I think they're going to control this game. I think Josh Allen has kind of erased all that playoff doubt that anyone has had last season when he had two of the greatest playoff games, played by a quarterback statistically. I think he kind of continues that here. And I think the biggest thing Buffalo is going to do on Sunday is control the clock.
Yeah, Buffalo is about to baptize Miami. I think the only concern here is just getting out of this game healthy. This is pretty much a bye week. For the Dolphins, again, I mean, again, your only chance is to run the ball incredibly well, and you're probably not going to have Mostert for this game. So here's another thing. And then you also got to force turnovers. Play calling's got to change up. Like too much stacked up against them. So give me the Bills here. But let's move on to a much better game. One that, frankly, is really, really odd in more ways than one. It's the Giants and the Vikings. In Minnesota, rematch of Week 16. Look, everyone has wondered all year about the Vikings. Sure, you're 13-4, but you're also 11-0 in one-score games. Are they clutch? Are they frauds? Are they somewhere in the middle? And obviously, one of those 11 victories was against the Giants on a 61-yard field goal from Caleb Joseph at the gun. And Greg Joseph, my bad. That day, Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley had huge days. Jones threw for 334 yards. Barkley ran for 84 yards, and he caught 8 balls for another 49 yards. New York moved the ball consistently, but they lost because of the 2 turnovers. So for Minnesota to win again, I think the run defense has to step up because in that game, New York was running at a high clip per carry. So if that happens again and the Giants hold on to the football, I mean, there is really a high probability of an upset here.
I said this on our TikTok when I went live with a couple of my guys. I think that Minnesota game was Daniel Jones' best game of the season. He played tremendous on the road, kept them in it. Because really, I mean, the Giants have been battling injuries all year, and they have been by far the most injured team when it comes to key starters. Not even close. I think at one point they had 11 or 12 starters hurt. And they continue to find ways to win scrappy, and they play tough. For Minnesota, they also have, and the record shows it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But there's a lot of sloppy football in Minnesota. Like, they just don't jump out in a lot of ways. And look, Kirk Cousins is a good quarterback. I think he is the 10th best quarterback in the league as we stand today. But there's always something lacking in, and the thing is, he is one, like when when the Vikings lose, he is always part of why they lose. 100%. And when the Vikings win, he is usually part in why they win. So the question is, what Kirk Cousins are we going to get, right?
Hmm.
All four of the Vikings losses, Kirk Cousins has been a big part in why they've lost, right?
Yeah.
So that's literally, I think, what it comes down to for Minnesota. And I think for the Giants, it's make sure your playmakers actually impact this game. Saquon's got to make his mark. Like he has to. And Daniel Jones has to have a good game. They're like, you cannot, have a mediocre 190-yard passing day. That is not going to get it done. You are going to need to go over 250, maybe over 300 total yards. You're going to have to stamp a Daniel Jones type of game, a legacy game on this game if you want to win. I think that's pretty much it for me. I think that's what it's going to come down to. Both teams have good playmakers on both sides of the ball. Both teams have played really scrappy and one-score games, and they found ways to win. Shriek, why don't you give us your pick?
Yeah, it's just literally anything can happen in this game. Nothing would surprise me if the Giants won by 30, if the Vikings won on the last play of the game on a hook and lateral. I mean, everything is in play, right? This is absolutely the weirdest matchup this weekend. Again, I just think this comes down to whether Minnesota can get one or two big defensive plays. I'll roll with the upset. I'm going to take the Giants here. Back in weeks, I think right after week 16, Pat Leonard tweeted out if the Giants saw the Vikings again, they'd win. I retweeted it because I was like, yeah, I think it's a good take, but now that it's here, it's kind of wishy-washy. Like I just don't know. But yeah, give me the Giants.
Why, bro? Why? I was gonna go with them. I thought, come on, man. I had this whole build up and I had this whole speech ready. Okay, well, yeah, I'm also going with New York. I've kind of had this set in stone since the matchup actually was set in place. I I'm a very big believer in Daniel Jones. I have been. I've been one of the only guys that have stuck with him, and it's been good to kind of see it ride through. I think he shows up, and one thing about New York that I really like is that they're on their with their offense. They know, like, they have an identity and they stick to it. There's no, like, there's no ifs, ands, or buts with this what this team is going to do, and it works. And that's kind of why I'm confident with it. They've got to win the run game. They've got to win time of possession. That's one thing that's really important. And the Vikings, who started off 8-1 after a crazy win over the Bills. First round exits does not seem too pleasing. But again, it's only Kevin O'Connell's first year, so I wouldn't be worried as a Vikings fan. I think the NFC North is theirs for the taking for the foreseeable future. But yeah, give me the upset here. Also, a 6-team pretty much always beats a 3-team.
Yeah.
You can look back on pretty much every year.
Yeah.
And Lamar Jackson is not playing. So let's transition with that. Into our next game. I believe it's the Sunday night one. Ravens, Bengals. The Bengals finished the year 8-0. The Ravens finished the year with a really forgetful 1-4 finish to the season. It sucks, man. I mean, this is the second year in a row. It's the same exact thing. Except this time it happened a little bit later, so they were still in the playoffs when Lamar got hurt. I believe they were 9-3 or 8-3 at the top of the AFC North. Lamar goes down. Win like 1 or 2 games with Tyler Huntley, you get your spot in this time rather than going 0-6 down the stretch like last year. I will say this though, and I'll toss it over to you. The worst game of the Bengals 8-0 stretch was last week. That was a scary win. There were times where you were looking at them like, hold on, are you sure they're gonna pull this one out?
Yeah.
I don't know. They did eventually, and I'll say this before you go. Remember that 6-0 stretch that I keep talking about it because I was like, oh my God, this team is going to have to go through literal hell if they want to clinch their spot in the playoffs. They went undefeated, and I still think they would have beat Buffalo. holy crap! Like kudos to Cincy for that. Literally cannot give them enough credit for that. And now I'll toss it over to you.
Yeah, I'll keep it a little bit shorter because obviously for the Ravens, Lamar isn't playing. But for the Bengals, I think the biggest concern is the right side of the O line.
Mm-hmm.
Alex Kappa was carted off with an ankle injury on Sunday. Lyle Collins is already out for the year um, with torn knee ligaments. So how is Cincy's line going to hold up against a pretty good Baltimore front? You got Justin Houston, Calais Campbell. So I think it is a little bit worrisome. I don't think they're in the clear necessarily, but I can't bet against the Bengals. So I'll give my pick here. Uh, Obviously, give me the Bengals. Now that I think about it, there is some more hope for Baltimore because the Ravens can run the ball really efficiently, and the defense can match up outside against Jamar and T Higgins with Peters and Humphrey. But I don't think it's enough to actually win. Maybe it's enough to make it interesting, but give me the Bengals here.
Man, if Lamar was playing, I think this is a whole different story. Like, this
Yeah.
is such a good matchup for the Ravens. You're getting them again consecutive weeks. It always bodes well for the loser
Hmm.
of the first matchups. It always does. Like, this is if Lamar was here, I think this is the Ravens would have easily taken this game. You're right. The right side of the O line is a big question mark. Like that. Like, I think people are really not talking about this enough. I think that just is a testament to Joe Burrow's amazingness.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is a bad matchup. Like if Lamar was here, this would be a really bad matchup.
Yeah.
It just goes to show you how important quarterback is in this league. If the Ravens can isolate the run game and maybe make this interesting, like it really just comes down again to time of possessions. That's what all the road teams are going to have to do in the playoffs. That's obviously what you bank on. Just yeah, you're catching the Bengals at a good time, but with the wrong people playing. So yeah, give me the Bengals here.
All right. The Monday night game, the Cowboys and the Bucks. Let's be real. I mean, this is going to be about pretty much three people, and that's Mike McCarthy, Dak Prescott, and Tom Brady. For McCarthy, uh, winning 12 games means absolutely nothing if Dallas is one and done. And if Dallas loses to the 8-9 Buccaneers, in my opinion, I actually do think McCarthy gets canned if the Cowboys lose because Peyton is available. As for Prescott, he's been extremely uneven this season. He's thrown at least one pick in each of the past
Yeah.
7 games.
Mhm.
Dallas watched as Cooper Rush only lost one game in 6 starts earlier this season, and no one thinks Rush is Prescott, but I think that stint kind of brought the pressure up a notch. And then there's Brady. This could well be Brady's last game in Tampa Bay before becoming a free agent this offseason. If the Bucks lose, I mean, the storyline coming out of this game will be more about Brady's next move than the actual loss. And as for the Bucks, it could be a really really weird offseason with an aging roster that suddenly doesn't have a quarterback. So a lot of narratives going in this game, but it's all centered around pretty much three people.
All right, I do this pretty much every time I can. I'm gonna continue to do it. Tom Brady is 45 years old. Broke the record, his own record for completions, 4,600 yards. Playoffs again. I mean, this guy is 45. Like, holy crap, dude. 45. Playing grown man football. And he is throwing for 4,600 yards, and he's got a division championship, and he threw for 432 yards with the season on the line. I mean, I cannot commend this man enough. Like, this guy is literally one of the best athletes to ever play. All right, now that I got my Tom Brady out the way, you're right. This does kind of come down to those three things. I think also Micah Parsons is one name you obviously want to keep an eye
Yeah,
out for.
yeah.
Uh, let's talk about Dak Prescott a little bit.
Sure.
This guy will continue to put his team in bad situations. He is literally the MVP of the other team pretty much every time Dallas comes on because he always keeps the other teams in games. This always happens. It's just it's I mean, I don't as a Dallas fan, how can you like are you really set on this guy continuing to be your franchise leader when he continuously does this? He goes 14 of 37. 14 of 37 against the Washington team that was completely injured and playing for nothing. 14 of 37. Oh my God. And against Tampa Bay in week 1, he had a 30% completion percentage until the fourth quarter. What the hell am I going to get from Dak Prescott in this game? That is what you need to be worried about, Dallas fans. And you know what? You can say all the good things about him. Really not much that I'm going to agree with, aside from him being a good leader, I guess. Dallas, I think it's time to start thinking about it. The Dak era needs to be in question. Tom Brady is a guy that just continues to defy the odds. Tampa's getting healthier. Dallas continues to worry me. And I'm going to give my pick. It's the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think Tom Brady wins this game. I think Dak Prescott does another number on his own team and proves me right as to why he is not that guy.
The Cowboys should win. Great pass rush. They're more talented. This Bucs team has scored 30 points twice all season. So knowing the Cowboys offense, you should win. And yet, this is Dallas. The Bucs have a defense capable of forcing Dak Prescott into a bunch of mistakes, and the Cowboys are always good for a lot of penalties. Look, if this game comes down to Tom Brady late in the game, I know who I'm betting on. So give me the Bucs as well. I think it's just
really not your guy.
No, I'm going with the Bucs. I'm going with the Bucs. It's sure? More. I can't bet against him, man. I can't do it.
Okay.
Can't do it. Even at 45.
And so why don't we touch on that little take I had though? Do you think that the Dak Prescott era should not be a thing?
Yeah, let me answer that. It really depends on this game. If it ends up happening the way that I see it happening, I think it is 100% in question. Because I don't think he's shown you at this point that he can take you any farther than the divisional. So, yeah,
and how
it
long
is totally in question.
Continue to defend him? Because I don't think he's the guy.
Again, this is a big game. I think this kind of determines how much I kind of defend him into the future. But
okay,
we'll see.
All right. Let's say he wins this one though. Do you really think he gets to the conference championship?
No, because he'd be playing the Niners.
Yeah, so
no.
Yeah, see, I think we got yourself in a catch-22 here.
Yeah, we do.
So, well, I don't think we differ, dude. Oh, I really thought we would differ on Minnie and New York.
Yeah,
I really thought. But I think we stayed the same throughout. Guys, we were not expecting that. But yeah, let us know in the comments, obviously, what your guys' picks are. Anything you guys disagree with or agree with. But it's good to be back. We've been the Cold Hard Truth NFL podcast. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we will see you guys next time.